Good evening, everybody. Welcome back to the Joy, Resistance, Hope, and Survival Book Club on 22 panels. And man, has this been a week of resistance, hope, survival, searching for joy. I mean, finding some like we had the first event at Modern Age Comics this week, and there were some good books out this week. I got to read advances on two outstanding graphic novels this week. Um, but like it was a week that like kicked off with the murder of Alex Pretty, and it's hard to like wrap my head around the fact that that was only a week ago because it feels like it's been much longer than that. Um, so like it's also been a week where everybody's sick. So right now it's me and Lee are the book club members tonight. The book is Crowded by Christopher Sebela and Ted Brandt and Rose Stein. We have talked extensively with Christopher Sebela, Ted Brandt, and Rose Stein about this book. So go way back in the archives. So like use that little search function when you're looking at your 22 panels episodes because I think the first time we talked about Crowded was literally with Great Power number one was
Oh,
with
wow.
Christopher Sebela.
Okay. Wow. Deep in the archives. Okay.
um, yeah. And I forget. Well, I can look it up and at least give numbers. When were Brandt and Stein on the first time? Oh, I need to re-log in. It tells me. I think it's weird that my hosting site, when it logs me out, it doesn't take me away from the screen. It
Yeah.
just when I try to do the next thing, it'll take me away from the screen.
Hmm.
So yeah, Ted Brandt and Ruth Stein's first appearance on 22 panels was with Great Power number 14,
Ah,
February of 2022. They've
okay.
been on the show three times, most recently with Joanne Starrer, who they did the Scratch and Sniff Harley Quinn book with. That was back in March of last year. And Sabella, I think, has also been on three times, unless he's been on four. Yeah, he's also been on three times, starting with Great Power number one on November 28th, 2021.
Hmm.
And he came back in February of 2022 and October of 2022. So it's time to reach out to Chris and see how he's doing and have him come back on the show, particularly because we're talking Crowded. Lee, it's my third or fourth read of Crowded.
Okay.
And I read past the first volume. Well, I mean, for that matter, it's my third or fourth read of Crowded. Starting with I read it in single issues when it came out.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And like it's one of those books where the first 12 issues came out in single issues with like a period in between.
Okay.
And then just because of the way sales were um the final volume came out as a volume
Hmm.
rather than as single issues because the single issue sales weren't doing well enough, but the collected sales were well enough that it absolutely made it worth finishing the story, just not
Right.
printing the stuff in between. So like the end of 12 had a letter to readers saying, "Hey, we're changing how we're going to do this and volume 3 will be coming at, like at this point in the future." It was one of the first books that I remember seeing do that. It's happened a few more times. And I think even like when we talked to Otis Frampton about um Patchwork Girl of Oz, it was the plan all along for
Hmm.
that, where like he wanted single issues for the first arc and a trade. And I think the plan is at least as he does the second arc to continue releasing digitally, but not physically until the second trade. Just because you work in a comic shop now. If it doesn't have
Yeah.
tights, it's not always easy to sell.
Absolutely. Definitely
If
learning
they're
that.
creator owned and you're getting paid based on sales, you're not getting it advanced, that sort of thing, that sort of thing can matter a lot. Um, So, what are your initial thoughts of Volume N? I'll also tell the listeners,
Yeah.
because of sickness and whatnot, and because we didn't get the message around to everybody well enough that this was what we were reading ahead of time. We will be revisiting it next month. We're gonna try to stick to Volume One of Crowded this month, and a month from now we'll talk about all three volumes and the whole story. Um, but yeah, Lee, your initial thoughts on Crowded, and give us your version of the synopsis as you do if you want,
Yeah.
because
So yeah, the my initial thoughts. So crowded being this sort of futuristic in a way, uh, as a this seems to be coming up a lot for me recently. So I got to process this, but it's a sort of future dystopian type. I'm a big fan of
right,
cyberpunk, so I love
right.
that there's this sort of idea of technology that there's a crowdfunding thing for everything. There's Reaper, Defender. Reaper is the assassination sort of
Well,
crowdfunding
Defender's more
organization.
like Craigslist, to
Yeah.
be to be fair. It's that
Uh-huh.
you don't crowdfund your defense. You go fire you go or like what's the site that you use to hire a babysitter?
Oh my goodness. I remember Mover.
Yeah,
Maybe
yeah.
Move.
It's Defender is
Yep.
here's my profile, hire
Yep.
me to come be your bodyguard.
Oh, yep.
Reaper is we want this person dead.
Yep.
Anybody who also wants this person dead, throw some money in the kitty, and then whoever kills them gets it all.
Yep. So clearly it's a great world to live in. Um,
And like where it gets like scary, particularly like I mean, I finished reading a book called Dark Money this week that really uh uh breaks down the history of political spending in politics,
yep.
particularly over the last 20 years or so, but really over the last 80 years or so, but like a focus on the last 20 years or so, and the in both the insidious ways that it's happened and the ways that laws have been changed to make it happen easier and whatnot, and like that made me look at this and the way it talked about how it wasn't quite legal, but now there was just paperwork that could be filled out because it wasn't quite illegal either,
Yeah.
etc. And I'm like, you know what? This is just way too real. This is not like this is not the way
Yeah.
our world is right now, but it's not a world that I think is fantastic and unimaginable.
Nope. It's almost like it's uh what's the quote I've heard about cyberpunk and even 1984 is that it's meant to be a work of fiction, not a manual.
Right.
All right.
Right.
It's
Well,
I think
and I mean, this is one of the problems you run into with good sci-fi is like they're meant as cautionary fiction, but sometimes cautionary fiction, if you uh, choose to, can be looked at as a manual instead.
yeah,
I mean, that's
absolutely.
certainly how both 1984. I mean, ironically, for decades there was the debate, where are we headed, 1984 or Brave New World? And the answer was both.
Take your pick.
The answer the answer was both. We're
Mhm.
we're headed in the direction where we make people so happy with dumb stuff or drugs that they don't notice the horrors around them, and we tell them the sky is red and they believe it.
Yeah. Yeah. And this story, it follows two characters, right? There's Charlie, which is I think one could argue she's the main character, and then
Yeah,
there's Vita.
Vita.
Charlie is the one that has the sort of hit or bounty on her
She's
head.
the $1 million girl.
Yep.
until she becomes the $2 million girl. And you haven't gotten this far yet, Lee, but she does become the $3 million girl.
Oh, snap. It keeps going, huh? I'd love to know what the hell she did. I'll tell you that much because I got to the end of volume one.
Yeah, yeah, I can't get into spoilers yet.
Mhm.
I will say that I have discussed real world aspects of things that will come out in volume two.
Okay.
This is deeper than just like the jaded boyfriend or anything like that.
Oh, yeah.
And it turns out that Reaper in general is not as organic. I
Okay.
mean, this is another thing that I just read about in Dark Money is that like uh, uh oh fuck it, I'm gonna be the Koch brothers have gotten very good at funding things that are supposedly grassroots
Okay. For the listening audience, Ted is putting
that
up
are
some air quotes.
yes, big air quotes around
Yeah.
grassroots
Hmm.
that are not at all grassroots.
Okay.
For that matter, there was a term for it in like the 70s that was derogatory that they just kind of embraced and called astroturfing, where it's
Mhm.
like, we're gonna come in and we're gonna make this seem organic and like, but really, we've got our agenda and we see that we can use this to our advantage, or we can create something to our advantage here. Um, Big example during the uh, uh, our recent past, if like the Tea Party in 2010 looked particularly well funded and well coordinated, and like it was all but impossible for it to be a grassroots organization, because not because people were coming together and whatnot, though there was money going into that, but like because somehow they never overspent on ads. Like if one attack ad was coming from this group, there wouldn't be another attack ad in that market. You know, Coordination of ad buys, blah blah blah, on a high level, etc. If it looked particularly well organized, that was because it was.
Yeah.
It was. Most of the people involved on the ground level weren't even aware because they
Mhm.
didn't need to be. Um, but yeah, I'm disturbed at how much political spending, if you have the money to do a lot of it, can also be made to look like charitable spending and therefore a tax write-off.
Yeah. It reminds me of this interesting concept. I'm trying to remember where I remembered it, or where I heard it rather. Um, and it was along the lines of like, at what point is campaigning or donating to charity like free speech, right?
Right.
And it goes back to, and I'm thinking about this sort of world that we live
Well, I
in.
mean, Citizens United says it's always free speech, and that's when the floodgates just
Yeah.
completely opened.
Yep. So then, especially
I,
with,
I tend to say that A, it's not free speech if you don't put your name on it, and
okay.
B, um, part of government, and we're talking about the sum with Animal Pound earlier today, which is also something that we're carrying over to next week because of various health issues and whatnot. Um, but part of government is that like you're always striving for the greatest ideal, right? So I understand the argument that like limiting the amount of money you can use to amplify your speech is a restriction on free speech. But you being able to use a massive megaphone when everybody else can only whisper is also a limit on free speech.
Sure.
So government has to, I mean, good government is a series of compromises. It has to be.
Yeah.
Um, Yeah.
And that just reminds me too, especially when it comes to volume one, is that again, I got bits and pieces, right? So this idea
Hmm.
of like uh, was the sort of responsibility government has for free speech, but also too, what happens when the government gets involved in the free speech, especially
Hmm.
in Charlie's case,
Hmm.
without going into too much spoilers here.
And like a lot of what this shows is like what happens when there are no guardrails on capitalism. Because part of the reason
Yeah,
why they have trouble, like with the legality of a Reaper campaign, is like, I mean, whatever else you want to say about it, it's capitalism.
yeah, money,
People are
all
paying
money.
for something, they're getting what they paid for.
Mhm. Yeah, in a way, and it's sensationalized, which again,
Right,
I
right.
don't have
And like it's one thing. I mean, you could make the same argument against contract murder, but like it becomes way harder when you've got thousands of people involved than when you have a couple of people involved to say, uh, this is anti-capitalism or anti-speech or anti whatever freedom.
sure.
Even though, again, like objectively, it seems ridiculous. But there's so
Mhm.
many things that we do. I mean, to me, it seems ridiculous that like half the world could have universal health care and somehow we can't because we think it's socialist. And we
Mhm.
think that somehow, even though half the world has universal health care and has cheaper health care for better outcomes, if we did it here, it would make health care worse and more expensive. Is the message that we're being told by the people that don't want us to have universal health care. And we're
Mhm.
supposed to believe that, again, despite the fact that all of Europe has less expensive healthcare and better healthcare outcomes. Mexico has less expensive healthcare and better healthcare outcomes. Canada. So what is it about America where we can't envision, you know,
Yeah.
that being said, like there was a time in America where the idea that we would not have slavery was unimaginable to huge numbers of people because, well, how would you get the work done?
Sure.
You
Or
know,
about the economy at that
I mean,
time.
the number of things that are absurd until they happen.
Hmm.
And then even then are still absurd to a lot of people. But like, I mean, I think the Citizens United decision is completely absurd. It like we went from spending a ridiculous hundreds of millions of dollars on political campaigns each year to billions of dollars being spent on political campaigns each year almost overnight.
Yeah.
And like if you told me that that was going to happen in 2008, I would have thought you were insane.
Hmm.
If you told me that the Supreme Court would decide that basic gun laws weren't legal
Mm.
in 1998, I would have said, ah, that's. I mean, there's so many things that because they happen slowly. I mean,
Yeah.
if we really think about it, and we think about our world before they happened, and really our world before it started to we started to see that there were even people who desperately wanted it to happen,
Right.
that we would have said, that's just absurd.
Hmm.
The idea that we would go from having a nationwide right to an abortion to debating whether or not women should be able to have an abortion if they were literally going to die otherwise, or whether the statute of the given state said no
Hmm.
in the span of a couple of years, again, when I was a kid, seemed, even though there were all the pro-lifers, like the extremity of what has become real arguments seemed absurd. So
And
like that was how this book was tempered so much to me on this reread, is I'm sitting there going, I don't actually feel like this is as absurd as I want it to be.
yeah.
I want this to be an absurd version of the future, but like in a country that has more guns than people, in a country that thinks that anything that you can get paid for must be good,
Yeah.
is it absurd?
Yeah. And it goes back to I must admit, and I won't lie to you, Tat. I got about halfway through this volume at first, and I'm like, what the fuck does this have to do with joy, hope, resistance, survival? I went through, there's no joy here. If
I
anything,
mean,
all good.
I can answer that.
Oh no, no,
It
because
sounds like you started to figure it out for yourself too.
100%. Because
So yeah, you first tell me how you figured it out because you said halfway, but then I'll explain where I came from because
yeah,
I came from a pretty specific point for
yeah.
this.
So for me, it was, I think it was literally about the issue 5 or 6. I think it was 6. Um, I'm a little slow on the draw sometimes, but it
So
was
way more than halfway.
yeah,
Six is the last issue of the first volume.
but it was a specific panel that stuck with me, and I think it was not even a mind you, the Vita, the bodyguard, the defender of Charlie, that Charlie hired. There were several instances of this happening. It was literally her Vita protecting Charlie, but it was the image of Trotter's, who's another character that's
Well, he's the one that he's not only like the big time Reaper killer, but he's made it
Mhm.
into reality TV,
Oh yeah,
which
which
again is like when you see that, you're like, well, of course, if you can make
yeah,
it into entertainment,
yep.
then it's not as ridiculous as I want it to be.
It's sensationalism, like for sure.
I didn't think we'd watch ridiculous rich people have arguments and cheat on each other as non-scripted entertainment, but how many Real Housewives series are there?
Yeah, we can turn anything into reality TV. Little and just a quick rant, a quick rant. Uh, I've never been more disappointed in our sort of culture when I learned of this show called Too Hot to Handle. And based on the premise of the show is that you get the winner, and again, air quotes here, the winner gets some number, 10,000, 100,000, don't know, don't care. But the
Right.
goal was you get these some number of men and women that are conventionally attractive, uh, and you put them together, and the goal is to not sleep with one another, and that's how you win. Cool,
I
great
mean,
thing.
I suppose I can think of ways that they could have turned it worse.
True. I mean, throw in a Reaper situation. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah,
Uh,
if there was one prize for the last person to sleep with anybody and another prize for the person who had the most people fail
mhm.
and sleep with them first.
That see, but it was the panel for survival when it was Trotter's VIP subscribers that was helping him with the thing. It was like, and they were surrounded by the two main characters were surrounded by
The
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 goons everywhere.
the auto driving cars.
Yeah, which was hilarious, by the way. It was just like, oh, this is about survival. Like,
Right.
mind you, it was just that image that really stuck out to me that they're outnumbered, they're in some ways outgunned. Again, air quotes here. And it's just like, wow, that was the spot that resonated for me. That was no, this is 100% survival in a fictional world that doesn't necessarily seem that fictional. Which, to me, going back to your talking point about free speech and campaigning and crowdfunding, uh, the message is fear, right? That's generally how we get
Yeah.
people into action. It's fear.
Hmm.
So that was also something that really resonated with me. And again, I just got through the first volume, to be quite honest.
Right.
I'm really looking forward to volume 2 and 3. Is how do we survive in a real sort of threatening situation, but then how do we survive, quote, in a fearful situation? And I
Yeah.
think, especially in the clinical side of things, working with patients is like sometimes that fear is not as prevalent as you might think, but yet you're still in survival mode. So how do you survive? But that's what stood out to me.
Well, and I mean, right now in a clinical setting, there's just I imagine you're just dealing with so much more fear, period.
Uh-huh. Oh,
You know. Um, but yeah, no, the survival part, yeah, but like for me, it actually hits all of them.
okay.
The joy is the artwork in this book is just outright. The job Ted and Roe do on this book is masterful. From from the way they do some of their sound effects. I mean, did you
Yeah.
notice how many
Oh yeah.
like
That,
sound effect stuff is crazy good. The acting they do with their characters is crazy good. Their
yeah.
pacing is crazy. I mean, this is a master class in good comics. So to a certain extent, there's joy just there.
Yeah.
Um,
Okay.
it really starts it in full in the second volume, so I don't want to
Okay.
tease it too much, but the way I will tease it is the poster that they have at the back. They have like a movie poster type thing for Crowded at the back of volume one that says
Yep.
Monday, meet cute. Several assassination attempts, blow up a motorcycle, steal a dog. Tuesday, run for their lives, threaten teenagers, accidentally terrorize a nightclub. Wednesday, crowdfunding campaign to kill clients hits $2 million, fill out paperworks. Thursday, picture each other dead. Friday, save each other's lives. So, particularly with the starting with meet cute to going to
Mhm.
save each other's lives, they're giving you that um they're giving you the foreshadowing that their relationship's going to deepen.
Yep.
Because on one side, this is a stay alive survival story,
Yep.
but um, there are elements in the first volume that you're going to see even more as you get into the second volume and think back to the first volume, where it's got a lot of romantic comedy action movie going on.
Yeah. Very much.
Um, and then beyond that, for everything that's gone horribly wrong in this world, like the idea that a Reaper can exist, or the Reaper crowdfunding can exist,
Yeah.
is like disturbing. But also, um, I told you this I think off air, but I'll repeat it on here because it's not a spoiler as much as like something you learn when you're in a different setting. They
Yeah.
will wind up in Oklahoma at a later point, and one of the things you will learn is that gay people got so frustrated with having their rights stomped on and whatnot that as a group, they chose one state to move to so that they could control the government and have it be friendly to them. And it wound up being Oklahoma, which I assume is a tip of the cap to the musical. Um, but there's even the throwaway line where and at this point we're aware that both Vita and Charlie are not straight.
Yeah.
Um, I mean, I think Charlie at least may be more bi than lesbian. Vita,
Yep.
I think all evidence is that she's a lesbian.
Mhm.
They don't feel the need to actually use any of those terms today. You just have to
Nope.
figure it out yourself. And this was a book also nominated for GLAAD Awards.
Yep.
The gay lesbian, I forget what the A's and the D stand for. Um, but Charlie makes a comment about how, well, at least they could have gone someplace nice like Florida, though I guess it is underwater now. And Vita's like, yeah, they planned ahead. For that matter, the actually, I think you haven't gotten there yet either because they're just leaving Los Angeles at the end of Volume One.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
but they're going to go to Vegas, and they're going to go to Vegas on high-speed rail.
Yeah. Oh, hell yeah.
They're going to go to Vegas and like one of those things that actually I'm not certain. I think there might be one in either Japan or China, but there aren't many of them yet. But like the
Mhm.
vacuum tubes.
Oh, yeah. I've heard. Yeah.
Right, right. So like there are elements of this book that also show some of the, it's not a hellscape dystopian future.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
It's right
So
around the corner.
so I mean that also gives me hope because here we have a world that in some ways has gotten exponentially worse, but has also gotten better in other ways, and also has the problem slash good thing that we have now, and like what percentage of which is depends on the day of the week, which is that like most of us get to live good enough lives that we don't have to be dominated by the problems.
Mhm.
Um, which again can be problematic
Right.
because it means that the people who do have to confront the problems don't have the number of allies that they need to have because so many of us don't want to take on their burden when we don't
Yeah.
have to. Um, some of the people who benefit from that count on that. I mean,
Yeah.
all we have to do is look at Minneapolis. I think they're truly shocked that people stood up for their neighbors that didn't look like them.
Mm.
I think that they thought that at most they'd get the sort of resistance that they got in LA and Chicago, um, not realizing that in some ways the fact that LA and Chicago are so much bigger does work into the it's an effort for people to go out and protest.
Right.
Minneapolis, the Twin Cities just aren't that big. You are on their blocks. They're not having to drive in to be involved in helping their neighbors out.
Mm.
They don't have the same level of not integration. They have much more integrated neighborhoods. They don't have the same level of segregation to their neighborhoods
Right.
because they're not big enough to have it work like that. When people move in, they move to where they can fit, and it doesn't matter as much if they stay in communities because it's not so big that they can't have community with people who don't live next door to them.
Yeah.
So, like, if you've got a group of refugees moving in, they don't have to move into the same neighborhood because if they have a community center on the north side of town, no matter where they live in town, they're less than half an hour from the community center.
Hmm.
But that means that lots of people have a Somali living on their block.
Right.
Lots of people have a Hmong living on their block,
Mm.
you know, and therefore, again, it's very personal to them.
Right.
Um,
And I forget that when it comes to joy, hope, resistance, survival, I always forget it's the joy that and hope that we feel as well, right? And you
right.
mentioned something which I have to not like this tripped me out. I chuckled. No, I didn't chuckle. I laughed out loud twice, and it was that same scene.
There's plenty of stuff to laugh out loud
Oh
in
my
this.
goodness, there were two that distinctly I remember. One, it was a bisexual club, and it was called Bi Furious,
Yes.
which I thought was amazing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just to play on Bi Curious is great.
Yeah.
Uh, but it goes back to the relationship between Charlie and Vita, where it was when Vita was dragging Charlie out of this strip club, the by
Right.
Furious strip club, and Vita was trying to make a point, and it's like, "Do you just want to get on the, I guess, pole and dance?" But before she could finish that, she saw a dancer
Right.
in a very cool acrobatic pose, and then her jaw dropped, which again,
Right.
how were like the
You're
artist,
drooling, Vita.
yeah, it was amazing. But then it was like
I
that
knew
made me
you
laugh
were
out loud.
human. Look how thirsty you are.
And then I laughed out loud with that. And the very
Right.
next page was just like, "Hey, whatever the dancer's name was, my friend wants to bang you." It was just like, "Oh
Right.
my God. All right, yeah." So that's what for me, that did bring me joy. It was like really funny, really clever writing.
Right. Well, and I mean, that's some people complain about the action movie that has the tender scene or even the lustful scene in the middle of it. And like on one side, I get it.
Hmm.
And on the other side, it's like if you don't know if you're gonna live or die, your emotions, your hormones, everything is on overdrive, and you
Hmm.
get a moment to rest,
Yeah.
and you have all of this energy to spend.
Yeah.
I don't know if I do think it's unrealistic that you
People cope, and this is where the clinical comes in, is that people will cope in their own way.
right,
And um, I think there was an excellent sort of portrayal of this, and I'll branch out a little bit here. Uh, and I could do it in a comic way and a not comic way. Daredevil Punisher, the show, the rooftop scene in Netflix season two was like where Frank is telling Matt, Daredevil, saying, "We don't choose the thing that fix us, Red." Right?
right,
That's how he deals with it. And
right.
uh, there was a powerful uh, episode in Modern Family with the Dunphy family, where the three children were dealing with grief in a way, but they all did in three very, very different ways. And I'll say that for the episode because it's a wonderful
Well,
episode. But
and the same people or the same person can deal with grief in different ways depending on where they are in their life, what else is going on that week, who they're grieving, what they're grieving,
Mhm. And
you know.
as you pointed out, man, is you have all these different emotions, different hormones. Your stress does a lot to the human body.
Uh-huh.
So, what do you do with that energy?
Right. Well, and I mean, that's another thing that I just love about this book is every character in it is very human.
Very. Even Trotter. Man, I thought he was a
Oh
douche.
yeah.
Forgive my language, but I
Oh,
thought
he's a
he was,
total douche, but he's very human.
yeah. And it's just like,
And I'm looking at one of the pages. What's the name of the girl that's still with him? And you get just tidbits of their backstory,
yeah,
like the fact that like he didn't want to be the killer, but he managed to be, and this is how they went from being a bunch of poor people living into like moving their way out, and eventually all of the other friends abandoned him, even though they abandoned him using the money that he put together.
yep.
You
But
know.
that's what happens, especially for those that haven't read it, it's just like you start to see like the whole crowdfunding Reaper thing that Charlie may or may not know. And that's
Yeah.
interesting. Like, again,
Well, and like the interactions at the police department,
oh,
you
dude,
know,
these were
that like I mean that's where we get hints of won't give away Vita's past because
mhm.
Vita's I mean what you do know is that she's her ex is a cop.
Yeah,
But like the interactions with the police department also they show you that like they have more respect for her than just the respect of somebody who dated a cop.
yep, yes.
Um Little things like, you know, not only there are a lot more colored people in the police department, there are a lot more women in the police department.
Hmm.
Um,
And especially
Whereas so
women
many
in
more of the
authority.
Reapers are men.
Oh, yeah, go figure.
Well, I just Like, go figure that like in this is something I literally just noticed, but go figure that in this world where there are that many more ways to make money for doing dumb shit, that the men chase after those whether they're successful or not, while the women keep doing the actual work.
Yeah, that's a connection. Huh.
You know,
Huh.
because I mean, and it's not that there are no women among the Reapers or whatnot, but
Oh yeah.
like if you're looking at the Reapers, you've got a lot of men, and you know that I mean, for that matter, almost every other group of Reapers we see is like some sort of strung out like we
Mm,
need this. This will make us is like,
yep.
or you could stop smoking crack and see about working. And I don't want to say that like a typical Republican because I don't mean to say that society always makes that easy, but like
Mm,
I'm sometimes disturbed by the number of people that I hear say, I want to be an influencer when I grow up.
yeah. Content creator, I've heard too.
And it's like, um, I mean, you can do that. You don't even have to grow up to do that. I create content. I hate thinking of myself as a content creator, but I create content.
Mhm.
Um, it costs me money. I don't get paid.
Yeah.
Um, and even among those who do in the type of content I do, there aren't a lot that get paid enough to make it their job.
Yeah.
There are a handful, and it's because they've really been dedicated to making it their job.
Hmm.
Um, and most of the content creators or influencers that are making big money, if you start looking into what they do for it, they're either dumb as shit and don't realize how ridiculously bad, bordering on evil, the things that they take money to do are,
Hmm.
or they are uh, believers who are bad, bordering on evil, or mercenaries who don't care that it's bad, bordering on evil as long as they get paid.
Mm. Yeah.
I mean, if you look at the influencer crowd, the people who make money from being popular, you know, it's
Well, yeah,
it's
shit's
either
better.
like the best end of it is selling like beauty supplies or clothes or whatever to their listeners. And the worst end of it is like doing all but scripted political stuff. And like the biggest reason that there isn't a left-wing version of a Tim Pool or whatever. I won't quite say Joe Rogan because honestly, if you wanted a left-wing version of Joe Rogan, you could probably get Joe Rogan. Joe Rogan's an odd duck.
Yeah.
Um, but like that some of these they know that the money that they're getting paid isn't actually because they're providing that specific return of value
Hmm.
for what they're saying until you start looking into the laws that got changed to provide return on value because of the votes that got changed because of the dumb stuff that they've been spouting.
Hmm.
Now, I don't know that all of them think that hard.
Yeah, that's a tough one, right? Because
I would be willing to bet that most of them don't. Most of them just go, "Oh, you're willing to pay me this much money to do this? Must be mean I'm doing good in the world."
right, like someone notices me, and there's a part of me like the whole bad like mercenary thing. Like, yeah, everyone has a price to some degree, and that goes
That's true too.
for anybody, right?
Hmm.
But I'm also seeing this sort of facade that people put on characters, right? And it reminds me of a phrase that I've heard typically in like comedy is like commit the bit, right? Commit to
Right.
the bit.
Right.
Uh,
Commit to the bit.
and it's like these influencers, content creators uh, portray themselves in a certain way when they're not really that type of character. Um, and again, I just drew this instant connection here as we talked about it of like, who the hell is Charlie, right? And that's something that I know in the book it definitely is explored more. Like Vita's just trying to protect you, and like you are not being
Hmm.
forthright. I think I would be a little bit more open if someone was
I mean, to
open.
be honest, it's been long enough since I read this that I don't remember. And with 60 pages to go, it hasn't been completely answered yet. I've seen at least four different Charlies.
Wow.
And what I don't know is how much of that is, because what we know about Charlie right out of the gate is she's a hustler.
Oh yes.
She works how many
100.
different jobs at once because that's the only way she can get by.
Yep.
And that's something that I always wonder is like the more work you have to do to get by, the less bandwidth you have to think about it
Yep.
and to think about whether or not what you're doing is actually something that you should be doing. Particularly because when it comes down to things like, I mean, I'm just going to use one of my pet peeve ones. Like, there are literally people who will pay people to stand in line for them.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I've heard of that one.
And on one side, like, I don't really begrudge the person taking the money because they probably need it. That's probably not how you choose to go out and make your money, is try to find the person who will pay you $20 an hour to stand in line all day so that they can have better general admission seats at a concert.
Yeah.
Right.
Mhm.
But on the other side, like, it offends me on a really deep level that, like, I took a day off of work
Mhm.
to stand in line to have better seats. I cost myself money. And
Yeah.
I guess that's the argument. Oh, the rich person costs themselves money too. But I cost myself money and I cost myself time.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you get to just buy it.
It's a resource.
And it sucks that it has to be the person who needs to take that money that has to make the decision to say, "Oh, this isn't right. No, I won't do that."
Mhm.
Like a society shouldn't have. I mean, you get into the Reaper stuff too.
Mhm.
Oh, like, I really want to kill this person, but I want total deniability.
Yeah.
So if I'm one of thousands and I use a bot or I use a phony email address or whatnot,
Yeah.
my hands are clean. But I still killed the person that I wanted to get killed.
Right. Well, I think that's even like there's like sort of a several page story arc there,
Yeah,
like of the young woman that's engaged, right?
right.
It's a perfect example.
Yeah, yeah. I can have the wedding of my dreams in VR, or I
Mhm.
can shoot you to pay for the wedding of my dreams, or I can settle for the wedding that's and like that's crazy on another level because like why is that people's wedding of their dreams now?
Yeah.
I mean, for that matter, in my lifetime, that wedding has gone from being called a princess wedding because
Hmm.
it's modeled after like the Charles and Diana wedding
Yeah.
to being called, wait for it, a traditional wedding. The number of people who
Yeah.
think the $20,000 to $30,000 wedding is the traditional wedding
Hmm.
is insane. The greatest marketing campaign ever was like when 2 months salary lasts forever by De Beers diamonds because diamonds aren't that rare.
Yeah.
But by making it seem more, they were able to drive up prices,
Hmm.
to have people desperately hold on to their heirlooms, to want to buy it, to pass it down to future generations, except that they're going to want to buy it too because what do you mean? I mean, I had a girlfriend once that like when she heard that I was considering spending less than 2 months salary on a ring was like, "What, you don't love me?" And I'm like, are you insane?
Yeah.
Do you want uh, do you want me to pay for the same ring that I can get cheaper and us not be able to afford rent? This is what you're asking for?
That's
My
the bare
wife,
minimum, Ted,
however,
didn't you
forbid me
know?
to spend more than $100 on a ring.
Yeah, it's again, and it's just sort of societal expectations, and that's
Yeah,
what you're sort of hitting on there. And it's yeah, and again, I love this world that's been created in the comic of Crowded. Of like, yeah, there are these different apps and things, and crowdfunding is like that seems sad to say, a lot of that seems completely fucking realistic. Five,
right.
10 minutes in the future, that could be a thing.
I
Um,
mean, think of okay. Here's just another example. How long ago was sports gambling all but completely illegal in the United States? And most people thought the idea of major availability of sports gambling was somewhat ridiculous.
yep, not too long ago.
How many athletes right now have ruined their career by being involved in prop bets?
Yep,
Not even like game bets. There are two pitchers in Major League Baseball who are never going to play again because they spiked pitches for prop bets.
yep,
They arranged for money to be laid down on the first pitch he throws when he comes into the game will be a ball. Which, why on earth is that a bet that like you can make to begin with, but you can make it in a heartbeat on your phone?
yep,
The number of people who are deep in debt because they can make all sorts of bets on a heartbeat on their phone.
yep,
And the number of people who've made a crap ton of money because of that.
yeah.
Not by gambling, but by being the people who own the apps and win whether you win or not. Because
Hmm.
that's the part of gambling, particularly sports gambling, that nobody who does it seems to get is that the way they set it up is the odds move to keep equal money up on each side. And they just take 20% off the top. 20% off the top is like what they get paid no matter what.
Hmm.
And the rest is the losers paying the winners.
Yep,
Once in a very blue moon do they not get the odds right, or there's enough of a rush that, but that's even less now because it's all done by algorithm. So as soon as the
right.
money starts going up, the odds start going down. They're
Yep. And yeah, now it's like I DraftKings is
right.
everywhere. Gambling
Right.
is
Oh,
everywhere.
and also, I should like along these lines for anybody out there who still wants to say that they think Trump, regardless of what he is as a politician, was a good businessman. He actually had to file bankruptcy on a fucking casino. Think about that for a second.
Yeah, and I want to throw this out there because I'll throw in a little bit of clinical, but I did have a patient that had a gambling addiction as well. So
Right.
if you do find yourself like struggling with that, to
Yes,
reach
get
out to a
help.
hotline, for sure. It's
I
a
mean,
thing.
gambling addiction is a real thing, and in some ways,
I never consider I until I
it
worked with
might
a
be one
psychiatrist,
of the most pernicious addictions.
and it's so publicized. It's on my Spotify advertisements. It's on
Mhm.
it even when I watch a
You
game, any
watch the
game.
sports event, you're going to have the this pitching change brought to you by DraftKings.
Yeah. So throw it out there. I think that's important to
Yeah.
note.
Well, and like I mean, don't get me wrong, you can absolutely ruin your family as a crack or heroin addict, but in terms of destroying their finances, there's no faster way to do it than gambling addiction.
Oh yeah, for sure.
You know, um, yeah, there's help available. Go get it. Or better still, just don't gamble.
Yeah.
Just,
No,
I mean, if you must gamble, have like the nickel dime quarter game of poker that you play in,
with your
where
friend.
everybody brings a roll of nickels, a roll of dimes, and a roll of quarters, and that's the most anybody can lose.
Yeah, yeah. I remember my first time gambling is I think I went to a casino. I don't recall where,
Mm.
but I lost $40 and I'm like, nope, I'm done. Like I lost $40 and like
No, my
I'm
my
done.
my my grandma was like pretty hardcore against gambling, and she talked about one time she'd been somewhere where I think she'd been in a state where there was gambling, so she'd found herself with too much time on her hands and just really needed to kill time. Um, so she got like $10 in nickels and just went to the nickel slot machine and was blown away at how fast she went through it and how little she noticed the time go by. And she's like, "Yeah, no, this is why it's horrible. I mean, thank God I was intending to lose that much money. I had no like, but she's like, the worst part is I did win once. So I wound up, she's like, like the story for her is I wanted to kill 2 hours and I wound up killing five
Yeah.
because I lost track of time just pulling a stupid lever.
Yep. It's a science. And
And
I
she's like,
recall,
but that first win actually kept me there.
yep,
Not
that
even
dopamine rush.
because I cared about winning again, but because I had that many more nickels to lose now.
Yep.
I
Yeah.
assumed I was going to lose the $10 in the time that I had to spend, and instead I was late to the thing that I was going to because I lost track of time at this thing that I had no interest in. She's like, I literally chose the thing that looked least interesting, the thing that I wanted to bore me enough that I would leave.
Yep. Funny how that worked, huh?
I had a pastor who talked about like I don't know if you remember like the original version of Solitaire that was in Windows
Oh
had an
yeah.
option to turn on like Vegas scoring. So it would
Yep.
like, he's like, when I play it on that mode, I have trouble stopping if I'm in the red.
Hmm.
So I'll play for hours longer than I might have otherwise. And he's like, that's not even real money.
Nope. Nope. But just the thought of being
Right. But
under.
having the score kept track of, like
Yep.
being able to go, oh, I gotta get back up. I gotta get
Yeah.
back
Yeah.
would be the difference between playing an hour or two. Well, no, the difference between playing like half an hour of solitaire to wind down before going to bed and playing like 2 hours of solitaire and not winding down
Yep.
before going to bed.
Yeah. Because now you created that stress, you created that dopamine rush. It's like you just want to keep going.
Right. And like that's another, I mean, like I said, this is my fourth or fifth read of this,
Mhm.
including doing it in single issues. And like the number of different very human things that he takes to the logical capitalistic degree, um and the logical following our current technology paths degree
Yep.
is really like astounding to me. You know, um how much thought they put into the stuff that is not the main story, and the main story is also amazing.
So good. I
um
I thoroughly enjoyed it, and I think that's probably uh uh, going back to the panels, like the artwork, just phenomenal. And the writing is like, I'm very fascinated by the world that has
Yeah.
been created. And that's what I want to like read more about. That really grabbed my
Yeah.
attention. So even if we didn't like have another podcast about this next month, I would 100% just get the trades and read those just to see what happens. Like
Yeah.
it did. Again, anytime you can make me laugh out loud in a comic, like that's a good sign for me.
Well,
So
at the same time, having you sit there going, what's joyful about this?
yeah, has me thinking.
Right. Because the part that you said that you laughed out loud was before the part where you realized that it was about survival. So it was still
Yep.
while you were thinking, why did Tad pick this book? You were
Yep.
laughing out loud, and it didn't occur to you that
Nope.
the fact that you were laughing out loud was the joy.
Yep. I will say it was late at night. I was very tired.
No, no,
Yeah.
that's okay. No,
That's
that wasn't supposed to be a criticism. That was supposed
no.
to be about the level of, I mean, the power of the medium to begin with, that we really immerse ourselves in it, and like, even as you're laughing, you're like, what's joyful about this? This is funny, but it's not
Yeah.
joyful.
Yeah. It's
Um,
fascinating.
but like, I mean, I think one of the things, like, because I try to think about like what this would look like as a movie.
Okay.
And you could do a lot of things and it would be decent, but it wouldn't be great because there wouldn't be the room to develop the world in a way that most people would notice and or be able to revisit. Like if they,
Okay.
I mean, just the difference between, like, if you start to notice something in the middle of the movie in terms of the depth of the world, it's so much harder to like rewind just to look at background stuff,
Right.
right? Whereas if you notice something in a comic that's not foreground,
Hmm.
it's easy to flip back when you're not having to reread stuff. You're just looking at, oh, this world is really interesting.
Yep.
The swipe for 30 more minutes of vintage Los Angeles.
It's so
Oh,
fucking.
let me go look harder at what Los Angeles looks like now.
Yep.
And or are there other times where what I'm seeing isn't real?
Yep.
You know? Um, and that's the other thing that makes it so like so near future,
Hmm.
is that it hasn't changed dramatically.
Nope.
We haven't gone into laser guns.
Nope.
The cell phones look a little bit more advanced and there's a little bit more done with holographic type stuff, but again, not like 6 degrees further.
Yeah.
You know,
It's
all
like
of this
it's
is
right
like
there. Like we're
I,
almost
I
there.
could see tech. I mean, half of it is like half of it. You're like, okay, is this a prediction of where technology is going, or is this the writer is way up on new technology and this technology is there, but it's not cheap enough that most people have it yet.
Yeah. It's almost like that sort of Tom King Heroes on Crisis sort of
Hmm.
moment. Yeah. I can see that.
How much of a futurist is Christopher Sebela when he's deciding stuff like this? Is he somebody who rabidly reads all of the science and tech magazines to know what cutting edge is?
Hmm.
I mean, that's like, I don't know if you've read Greg Rucka's Lazarus, but that's one of the things that makes that like so similar in terms of this, and that like it's like, oh wow, this is all too real of a future, is that like in the letters he'll talk about the stuff that he's been reading that, you know Yeah, no, you can't go to the hospital and get this, but they've had breakthroughs that indicate that there will be a time where this medical thing that I did in the issue
Yeah.
isn't impossible. There has been this done here that
Uh, the scene that the panel that stands out to me is the one with Vita with the house and the fire department. It's like, oh, you got water here, or you can do the hard foam, which is a
right.
62% chance. Just swipe this,
Oh,
or
well, and also that you have to pay for it. We won't we're letting your house burn while we wait for you to sign off on whether you want us to soak your house to put it out or use the hard foam that might make it so that we don't destroy the stuff inside of it more.
yep. How transactional is that? Jesus. Yeah.
I mean, like when LA was burning last year,
Hmm.
there was actually one of the billionaires that tweeted out, "Does anybody know of a private fire department that I can contact?"
Uh, sorry for the listening audience.
He,
I'm just like, um,
yeah, he
disbelief.
wanted his money to be able to bring fire trucks to his house rather than
Ah,
working on.
that's interesting.
Well, I mean, what's more interesting is that, like, I believe that there's still at least one county in Kentucky where you do have to have private fire insurance.
Oh,
If
wow.
your
Yeah.
house is on fire and you haven't paid for your fire insurance, they will come out to make certain that the fire doesn't spread to the house next door if the house next door has paid for their fire insurance.
Wow. Going from the public to the private sector.
The
Hmm.
whole, I mean, that's been my entire life is
Yeah.
the single biggest goal of the far right of the Republican Party that is no longer the far right of the Republican Party. It now is the Republican Party is privatize everything. Make
Hmm.
government small enough to fit in. I mean, even our military is as privatized as public at this point.
Hmm.
How big is Blackwater?
Oh, my goodness. Yeah.
How much military spending is on hardware rather than soldiers?
Right.
You know, one of the things that drives me up the wall with the fact that they can't pass a fucking audit is, look, I understand that some of your stuff is top secret and whatnot, but like I know that we have the most expensive military in the world. It's been a while since I've actually been convinced that we have the best.
Mhm.
You can spend a lot of money on something that doesn't work very well.
Oh, yeah. Effectiveness versus efficiency.
Right. You know, what was the last war that you can say unequivocally the United States won rather than abandoned?
Hmm.
World War II.
All I can think of.
Yeah, World War II. Technically, the Korean War is not over,
Ah, that's good to
you
know.
know. Again,
Yeah.
technically,
Yeah.
I mean, it's been in a ceasefire for
Hmm.
what, almost 80 years now, and but there's a demilitarized zone in Korea. I mean, that there's an area that like
Mhm.
X number of yards on either side of the border. You got to be really careful because there's a lot of landmines.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Um, you know, I mean, I guess maybe we won the first Iraq war, except like if you define it only as driving Iraq out of Kuwait,
Hmm.
you know. But yeah, we've got
Well, we
some
got,
impressive hardware,
yeah.
and I'm certain that we have some incredibly trained troops,
Hmm.
and we have other not so well trained troops, and we have a lot of hardware that might be impressive, but not as impressive as we make it out to be, particularly in terms of winning rather than causing havoc. Have you ever seen the movie Eye in the Sky?
No.
It's actually like 10 years old.
Okay.
Um, and I think deliberately to make it more friendly um to a wider audience, they primarily made it uh English people depend or looking at using drones in Nairobi, Kenya,
Hmm.
rather than any of the realistic places that Americans use drones all the time. Though there were some American toss outs to it, but essentially the entire movie, and it's not even 2 hours, it's an hour and 42 minutes, but it's essentially real time of that they've discovered that there's a target at a location. They would prefer to take them than kill them, but but their intelligence starts to show that, oh, they might be preparing a suicide bomber. So we have to consider that. And just as they're thinking about making the drone strike, a kid starts selling bread inside of what would be the strike zone, and they have to deal. And on one side, I'm going, I hope that they think this hard about every drone strike they ever make. And on the other side, I'm sitting there going, oh, all drone strikes are terrorism
Hmm.
because nobody that's about to die knows that they're about to die.
Goes
And a
back to
significant
survival.
number of them aren't the people that, mind you, were willing to kill rather than not take. But like our goal is to take them, not kill them. So it's like extrajudicial for them. And this is what we're doing on boats in the Pacific outside of Venezuela. This is, I mean, like the collateral damage. And the entire reason is because, like, from a publicity standpoint, one dead American will make a lot more people dislike the action than 100 dead Somalis or 100 dead Libyans or Palestinians or whatever, you know. But like, what kind of warfare happens in residential? I mean, and the argument, how many times have you heard, oh, they hid their spot or they hid their tactical spot in a residential area? And it's like, did they, or are there just not non-residential areas? And
Right.
for that matter, like when the president goes to the hospital, does that make it a military target? I mean,
Yeah. Not, don't know, man. But I
um,
definitely hear that.
I mean that goes back to the whole 1984 thing,
Yep.
where like the language being used doesn't always mean what it seems to be. Only I would argue that in part because with this, both parties have been doing it for a long, long time. We're really, really good at using language that is factually accurate without being truthful at all.
Hmm. Yep. And that's the part where what is it? What's the phrase? Fact checking, right? Even that
Right.
I'm thinking the presidential debates now, how there's like a real time fact checker, um, and getting that data points and like what is the fact? What is the and I'm putting quotes up truth.
Right.
Especially when we think about like that perspective.
Yeah. But yeah, this will be fun to continue the conversation next month. Hopefully
I
everybody is healthier, but even if they're
Yes,
not, you and I will both have finished all three volumes.
100%.
I'll remind Belle because I know that some of the art came up on the last saga. Were you
Yep.
there for that? Yeah, I wound up showing some of the
Yeah.
art in the last saga. And Belle was immediately like, "Oh, I have
I'm
to
not
read
that.
this."
Yeah.
And
Oh,
that's when I decided, "Oh, this should be our next book."
yes. But Belle's energy is something I strive to have in my life at
It
some point.
is. It is.
She's
Um,
great.
yeah. Well, I'm still crossing my fingers that she winds up at the University of Chicago because then we'll see a lot more of her.
It'd be awesome.
Yeah. So, all right. For 22 panels, this has been the Joy, Resistance, Hope, and Survival Book Club, where we talked about Christopher Sebela, Ted Brandt, and Rose Stein's Crowded, Volume 1. And we'll talk about Volumes 2 and 3, and probably more on 1 next month because it deserves that much attention. Um, it's such a layered and wonderful book. So we will see you after the next page.